Hello and welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. I have something a little bit different for you today, because I was recently contacted by good friend of the channel John Middleton, the incredibly knowledgeable gent I always turn to when I need help regarding some obscure piece of wargaming lore. He got in touch to let me know the special 500th issue of Miniatures Wargames Magazine was about to go on sale, and it was going to include some content that I would find very interesting. Naturally, I rushed down to the local newsagents and secured a copy, and we're going to take a look at it today. Miniature Wargames isn't a magazine I normally buy. Its slogan is the magazine for all wargamers, but I feel it tends to focus most frequently on historical wargaming, which isn't a subject I delve into often. There is something a bit special about this publication though, something that always makes me flick through it if I happen to see it on a shelf. It's been going for 41 years and it feels like it. It has a quaint, nostalgic, old-fashioned feel that I absolutely love. It focuses on homebrew scenarios for popular wargaming systems, historical reenactments of famous battles for your tabletop, painting guides and scratch building terrain. And I think that's just lovely. But that is all besides the point. I put down my money for the 500th issue for two very good reasons. Firstly, as I am sure eagle-eyed viewers have already spotted, this issue comes with a free sprue of multi-part plastic werewolves from Wargames Atlantic, enough bits to make 4 wolves with parts to spare. And inside there is an article for a HeroQuest scenario that uses werewolves. It's a pretty interesting article, we will talk about it in a moment. This sprue of werewolves is quite good. I am a huge fan of werewolves, so I wasn't going to pass up an opportunity to add some more to my collection. Like John said to me, who doesn't need a sprue of hard plastic werewolves? However, there are a few things to note. Firstly, these are true scale 28mm miniatures, so if you are going to use them for something like modern HeroQuest, they are going to feel a little weedy in comparison to everything else, shorter and thinner. Secondly, you don't get any bases. When I assembled mine, I ended up putting them on Renedra 25mm round bases, but thinking about it, I may rebase them on something thicker eventually. Finally, these are multi-part miniatures and they do not push fit. You will need some glue to assemble them, and I recommend plastic glue for the job. Each miniature comprises the body, 2 arms, a head and an optional tail. I really ummed and ahed about adding the tails. I tend to think of wolfmen that walk upright as not having them, but as you can see here, in the end I did use the tails as I felt they gave the model a sense of balance and graceful action, reinforcing natural lines of motion that made them feel more active, more alive. Overall, I quite like them, but due to the 28mm scale they do feel a lot smaller than a lot of the other stuff I have in my collection. And if I compare them to werewolves from Blacklist and the Dungeons & Dragons range from WizKids, even when mounted on thicker bases, they really do look like they need to hit the gym. They are creepier though. They don't have that cartoon bulkiness. They have a litheness that speaks of speed and aggression rather than brute power. The faces also remind me more of the kind of prosthetics you might see in a werewolf movie. Now, if you play HeroQuest, you could probably make use of some werewolf miniatures. Besides being something fun to drop into your homebrew games, they are also very handy to have on hand if you are playing through Mage of the Mirror. In that quest, it's possible for the heroes to turn into werewolves, and should that happen, you replace their miniature with a werewolf token. In my review at the time, I said the lack of werewolf miniatures felt like an oversight. With the 4 werewolves here, you could give each player their own personal werewolf sculpt, which seems like a pretty cool thing to have. Additionally, issue 500 of Miniatures Wargames Magazine includes a HeroQuest scenario that uses werewolves. And I think this article is fascinating, because it's so old school. So old school, the scenario uses the original European rules, where monsters only have 1 hit point, and the included photographs show a mashup of original components, classic old hammer sculpts, and pimped out accessories. It feels gloriously archaic, and this is exactly the sort of thing I was doing with HeroQuest back in the early 90s. Just check out this first image. There's classic 4th edition Gotrek bringing the smackdown to a furry. That Gotrek, along with his companion Felix, led my old metal dwarf army into countless skirmishes, and he was often the only model left standing at the end of them. I very much regret ever getting rid of him, and he is on my list of miniatures to reacquire for Advanced HeroQuest, where he does make an appearance in one of the expansion quests from White Dwarf magazine. I do have a sneaking suspicion the miniature pictured here is a 3D print from Minis 3D or Colts 3D, rather than an original that has been rebased, but even so, it's great to see Gotrek doing what he does best. The main focus of this article is a one-shot quest in which the heroes are sent to the castle of Lady Diane to aid her, only to find out she has been cursed with lycanthropy, throwing the heroes into a race against time to save her soul. I'm not going to go through the quest in detail here, but it looks okay. It runs across 2 maps as the heroes enter by the ground floor of the castle and work their way up to the first floor, and most of the locations have something special going on, little descriptions and role-playing flourishes. One of my favourite bits is a hero can take off their helmet to fill it with water, but they lose the helmet's defensive bonus if they do. I think little things like that are neat. There are also some maps you can download to give to your players. Something else of note, and something I think we should see more of in official missions, is there are at least 4 different ways to complete this quest, resulting in one of 2 endings. A bad ending involving killing the beast, and a good ending which involves curing Lady Diane. The article also talks about how to run the mission and covers some of the things you may have heard me rabbit on about here on the channel. The mission was designed using the original European rules, and there is a section in the article talking about how you could use the North American statistics for the monsters, but it would make the mission more difficult. This includes some musings on the role of Morcar, or Zargon, as more of a games master than an adversary. A kind of overseer who should not be going all out to destroy the heroes, but should always be looking to find that balance where the game is challenging without being miserable. I was also amused to see the author here plays with a lot of the same rules I do. For example, they combine searching for traps and secret doors as per the original European rules because they found making them separate actions slowed down the game too much. They also only allow each room to be searched for treasure once, using tokens to mark when rooms have been looted. Finally, there is a section on including a time limit to keep the heroes moving. The author suggests setting a 1-hour timer for the heroes to get the job done. I use a timer, but nothing so strict. If after all 4 heroes have activated there are no monsters on the board, I take a skull token. If at any point I have 5 skull tokens, I can cash them in to draw the top treasure card. If it's a trap or a wandering monster, I can play it immediately on any hero. If it's a treasure, it's removed from the deck for the remainder of the quest. In this way, if the heroes dawdle, they risk losing valuable treasure, activating more traps, and running into more enemies. At the end of the article, the author also talks about some useful resources for HeroQuest, giving a shout out to everyone's favourite watering hole, Ye Olde Inn, and also mentioning HeroQuest Builder, a very neat online map editor that I reviewed on the channel way back in May 2022. I think if you are interested in homebrewing HeroQuest, it's a nice little article. I don't think it's going to teach you anything you couldn't have worked out for yourself, but it is interesting to see how other people approach mission design, especially when using old school rules. Plus, the mission itself seems like it could be a bit of fun. I think that covers the aspects of the magazine that will be of most interest to the majority of my viewers, although I should mention there is a painting guide for the werewolves using the Army Painter Fanatic War Paints range. There are 4 different colour schemes and the techniques are nice and simple. There's also an article on scratch building a windmill if you want your werewolves to terrify some poor millers. Additionally, 2 adverts caught my eye. First, an advert for the new 2-player War Machine starter set from Steamforged Games. I reviewed this starter set on the channel a few weeks ago, and despite loving the miniatures, I was somewhat disappointed by the lack of physical components like a rules book and unit cards. One of the comments I made in that review was that the box was quite minimalistic and really didn't make it clear what the set contained. This advert continues that trend. There's no contents list, no pricing, not even a list of the units and what factions they come from. I do find the whole approach to the game a bit baffling, and I'm not sure how much it would appeal to a new player. I think this contrasts strongly with the advert for the new introductory set for Bolt Action, which I had no idea was coming out. This advert shows the box art, the full contents in use, details of the game, player count, age, approximate time to play, a full contents list, website address, release date, and price. This starter set contains a 64-page handbook, 12 German Grenadiers, 12 US Rangers, a cardboard German half-track, a plastic farmhouse, a double-sided playmat, gaming tokens, bolt-action dice, regular dice, and a dice bag. The retail price is £42.50, $68 in the US, and that seems very reasonable to me. I have to say, Bolt Action is a game I have always told myself I should try at some point. Maybe this starter set will be a good way to check it out at a reasonable buy-in. We shall see. I do already play a lot of skirmish games, and there are a few more that I am already interested in looking at. But I am probably veering well off track at this point, so I should sign off with this. For HeroQuest fans, issue 500 of Miniatures Wargames Magazine is probably worth picking up. If you want some werewolf miniatures, you could do worse than the ones from Wargames Atlantic, despite the scaling. And if you like homebrew HeroQuest and enjoy seeing what ideas other creators have come up with, the Howl of the Werewolf feature is worth a read. I consider it £6.99 well spent. And that is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really like this video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so, and hopefully I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.